Good morning. It is 11 o'clock here in Amsterdam, and it means that it is time for already Leopard lesson number 7 today. And the first thing you might notice is that I'm actually speaking English today instead of Dutch. And that comes because my guest of today, because yes, we do have a guest at the table once again, is a person that has international ambitions to grow his initiative in this case. And like I said, I'm not here on my own, as we always have clients or interesting friends from the industry at the table. We found a very interesting long friend from the industry in the form of Bas van der Lans. Bas, Sebastian in English, welcome.
Hey, thanks Olivier, pleasure to be here again. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so great having you back. We're going to talk much more about wordproof. A lot of things happened since the last time we spoke. That's a year ago that I had you on camera, actually.
Yeah, it was a few days after the pitch we did in the European Commission.
And we're going to talk about a little bit more about that one, because you really went through a roller coaster with wordproof, which is great and well deserved. But before we're going to do that, and before we're going to deep dive into it, I do want to tell you once again, it is a live webinar, and that means that you can ask questions if you want to by typing it in the bottom, and they will appear in my screen, and I'll ask these questions to Sebastian. And don't be shy to ask tough questions on him. He can handle it.
He does, yeah, perfectly. And we're in for a great discussion. So.
And besides you being able to ask us questions, we can ask questions to you as well. And let's start out with that one. And let's start out with a little poll question just to get the feeling how it works. And the first poll question is, where are you employed? And first answer A is that in a government setting, B in a media setting, C in an e-commerce setting, or D in an other business setting. So please click on the answer and it should appear in our screen right away. So are you working for a government? Do you work in media, in e-commerce, or any other business in this case? So please click on the polls. Oh, people are very fast today. That is actually like last times as well. I'll stop the poll and display the results so you can see them in the screen as well. Yeah, you can't see them, Bas, so you can turn around what you want to, but I'll surprise you in this one. Now, the majority is other business, but 25% is in e-commerce, and they should stay put, right?
I guess, yeah, absolutely, I know.
You know, very good, very good. So let me hide the results, and yeah, let's get started. First of all, I know you very well, but the general audience might not. So can you please introduce yourself and, of course, tell a little bit more, what is wordproof?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Sebastian. Work with open source software for over 14 years. Started with a WordPress agency. It's called Van Ons, Amsterdam-based. And today it's a full-service agency. And 2 years ago, I started the company Wordproof. What do we do at Wordproof? Well, we say the internet is an amazing place. We're sitting here with the two of us, and thousands of people will see this video without traveling. The internet is amazing, but at the same time, it has some deep-rooted issues, and it's with trust. And why did it happen? It's quite obvious. The internet was designed to connect computers with computers. And computers, they have no dreams. They don't care about power or self-enrichment. But people, they do. And there are all kinds of obnoxious human behaviors, theft, manipulation in the form of misinformation, fraud, all that kind of behaviors. In the normal world, we have systems, norms, and values to make sure that they won't hurt society. But on the internet, we don't have that systems, as trust simply isn't part of the internet's design. What you want is to make trust part of the DNA of the internet. As what happens today is there's a lot of distrust on the internet, and therefore the society is at risk. Through timestamps with a blockchain, we can do two things. It's A, transparency, and B, accountability. How did information change over time, and who was the sender of that information? So with blockchain timestamps, we make sure that all information that impacts lives, for example, voting, buying in e-commerce, is transparent and accountable. And based on that, we can restore trust in society, restore trust in the internet, but therefore in society. So that's what we do, building a trusted web. That's what we fight for.
That is a very, very great goal to start with. And that's literally what you pitched in Brussels, right?
Yeah.
And they liked it so much, they kind of gave you a little prize with that regard.
It was, the competition was blockchains for social good. 176 participants from over 40 countries were sending in their IDs. And from the 30 possible points the jury was given, we had 29.5. So they rewarded us with 1 million in cash to grow the company. Yeah. And the recognition by Europe that we are the best blockchains for social good initiative, which is great, as we can fly in the people from Europe if we talk to the big tech and policymakers all over the world. Yeah.
So and obviously it's great to get a prize like that, and it helps that you get good starting funding, etc. Yeah. But did it also get the snowball effect going? Did you really get into contact with the big techs in this case and talk about the solution?
In a way, yes. We were already reaching out to them, and what we see. The story is it's so relevant in this crazy time. Mm-hmm. During Corona we learned that we are really dependent on the internet. We all are. At the same time, we've learned that misinformation can literally cost lives. So the whole thing, it's Europe who deeply cares about the trustworthy internet. Voting with their wallets, saying wordproof is a great idea, trusted web is a great idea, but all factors together make that it's really easy to get in with the people at the biggest search engines, with the people at the social media platforms, and with the biggest publishers and e-commerce parties. Yeah.
Because one thing is very important in this case. It's just not just a pure technical timestamping solution, because we've seen that before. It's a bigger thought behind it, right?
Yeah. So blockchain, obviously, we talked about this a lot in the last years. Yeah. Blockchain, most people know it because of Bitcoin. But the technology was invented in 1991 for timestamping, for proving integrity of information. And if you see the Bitcoin white paper, which was published in 2008, there's a reference to a white paper about timestamping documents on a blockchain by Scott Sternetta and Stuart Haber. Yeah. And
it wasn't called blockchain at that time.
It was. Yeah? Yeah, in that paper, 99% sure.
Okay.
Research it, put it in the comments, people had it. Yeah. But it was invented, blockchain was invented for timestamping. And until recently, the technology wasn't scalable, it was costly, it wasn't user-friendly. And what we did was making it cheap, fast, user-friendly, and connecting it with all sorts of content management systems, e-commerce systems, making a nice timestamp certificate in the front end so that people could read it. And the idea is not only to integrate the technology, but also give as much value as possible to a timestamp. So a timestamp offers transparency, that's what it does out of the box. But when you connect it to identity or the self-sovereign identity stuff you are working on with Leopard, which is, you make amazing steps there. Mm-hmm. If you connect identity to a timestamp, a whole new world opens. And what we want is all participants, so a consumer needs to see, this is the ecosystem, that's what we pitched. It has several stakeholders. So 5 stakeholders. One is maybe the next slide. Yeah, perfect. The consumers, they need to say, hey, I want to see how information changed over time. They should demand it.
And just to get it right for the viewer, we're talking about the online web content in this case, right?
Yeah. So the 1991, it was about proving the integrity of documents, of information. Mm-hmm. So it's a unique fingerprint of that information, which they put in a blockchain transaction. From that moment, you can always prove that the information existed at that moment in time. Yeah. Where you connect an identity to the blockchain address you timestamp with, then you have the accountability as well. And that's what we do with publishing of information, terms and conditions, product information. It could be anything.
Yeah. So your focus is to guard and prove the integrity of data published online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could be anything, could be files too. So for a government, you have all kinds of, in Dutch, we have the WOP, Wet Openbaar Bestuur. Those files can be timestamped as well. So you can see, hey, did it really come from this person? Did it exist? Was it timestamped?
Yeah, but we had VID here at the table as well.
Yeah.
And they are very much focusing on this document part.
Yeah.
Also IoT part, etc. So multiple levels. But your first focus initially really was on websites and the website content.
Yeah.
And now you're saying it can be used for multiple purposes.
Yeah. But we focus on the public. So we did a case together with the guys at VID. Yeah. And what we did, it was for Amsterdam vintage watches. Yeah. So what they do, they
actually mentioned that example.
Which is a great e-commerce example. Yeah. Vintage watches is a great, it's about trust. Do I trust the shop? Do I trust the one who opened that watch? So VID timestamps the object, the watch itself, and we do the information around it. Yeah. So that was a great collaboration, and we will do that more often in the future. Yeah.
But that's also to get it clear where all the elements are in the ecosystem.
They do documents and a lot of documents that are not public, and in the VOB, it's public documents. Yeah. So that's where the so is. In the Amsterdam vintage watches, what we say is, hey, they timestamp the object and we do the information around it. Yeah. They do the offline and we do the online. Yeah. Bring integrity, or actually, there's so much integrity in Amsterdam vintage watches, and we bring it through the blockchain. So we make the integrity and their reputation verifiable. Yeah,
cool. Absolutely. But then so back to the stakeholders in the ecosystem. Yeah.
So the consumer should demand it. The big tech, search, and social should reward it. The more transparency, the more accountability, the higher the reward, the higher you rank in timelines. We'll talk on that later. Yeah. Then you have the policymakers who should demand it. Hey, if you timestamp your information, or if you have terms and conditions, you must make it verifiable for the one who receives the information. That's the role for policymakers. And then lastly, the advertisers. We could imagine a world, for advertisers, a big problem is their brand safety. My advertisement, next to what content does it come? Is it real content? Is it fake content? Is it written by a human? We can't imagine a world where advertisers demand a publisher or e-commerce shops to timestamp the information which they advertise next to. Yeah. So it's a whole ecosystem of stakeholders.
Yeah, and obviously a very important question. Do consumers demand this already? Because that's where it starts. If the consumer doesn't want it, it's then we all accept fake news and fake media, etc. I feel that it's something we want, but do you see it in general as well, that the consumers demand it?
What you see is the Ipsos research. It's about trust on the internet. And what you saw there was 29% of the Europeans, they are suspicious of the internet. And 68% of the Europeans have fallen for fake news at least once. And 85% says, hey, we want to be educated on misinformation. What you can do, or what you can demand, people don't know about blockchain. But for example, on a news website, you see, hey, last edited 3 hours ago. You could say, wow, that's transparent. But you could also ask, what was there 3 hours ago that I'm not allowed to see anymore? Probably that was the most interesting part of the article. So what we see is that people want and want to do their own research. So lots of research said, hey, I start to believe information when I have seen the same information on more than 3 websites, for example. So people start to do their research more, and over time they will know, hey, it's possible to share the revisions, it's possible to verify integrity. So there's a lot of education to do, but people, the consumers, big mass, are, they start to get what is possible with this technology.
It is an interactive website, so that means people can ask questions. And the first question actually pops in from Ben. Ben, thank you very much. And also to the other viewers, please put in questions, because that's what we really like. That keeps the interaction going. The question from Ben actually is, so if I understand it correctly, in the future we will be able to connect our digital identity to our content, which will make sure everybody can see who posted what online.
If you want to. So,
if you want to.
Yeah,
that's very important.
Yeah. Because it comes with privacy issues.
Yeah.
And what we say is, and then we go really in depth in the ecosystem, is you can connect your government identity, but you won't connect your government identity to every information. Yeah. But for example, a journalist, if you base your vote on it or base your buying or whatever, then you want to know who's behind that. Yeah. Or at least if someone with a certificate from this specific university or in this specific thing they do.
So it makes it more credit worthy, but it should always be a conscious decision by the publisher by itself.
Yeah.
Not something that should be mandatory to do so.
Of course, but at the same time, we're educating the search engines and social media. The more accountability someone takes, the higher it should rank in the search engine. Yeah. And we expect, for example, Google to say in a year from now, hey, this is timestamped, and you can see the revisions or not.
Hold on to that one.
Yeah. But we expect that the more transparency, the more accountability, the higher the reward. So there is a reward to play open card, but it should never be mandatory.
So a great question, Ben. Thank you very much for that one. But it is actually one of the views that we have towards the future. That if you are willing to do so, it gives you additional credibility, and thus it helps you. It should reward you as well in the other way.
And the policymakers, they could say, hey, for news websites, for government news websites or specific news websites, it's mandatory to a certain level to connect your LinkedIn or.
Or even on an ID on the company level. Exactly. If you say, for example, DPG Media actually published this one, so you can always say, all right, it was at least that company. And so it isn't traceable to a person, but to at least a trustworthy entity.
Provided by the local Chamber of Commerce, for example.
Something like that,
as an identity provider.
All right. So again, Ben, thank you very much. And keep those questions coming. We do like them. Obviously, another very important player in the ecosystem are the policymakers themselves. And the policymakers have been working in the past years to improve privacy for any citizen everywhere, which obviously within the EU led to things like GDPR.
Yeah.
And how does this actually visualize or how is this related to GDPR? Can we relate it to GDPR, or is it a help towards GDPR?
Yeah, at conferences, I always ask to the crowd, hey, who of you likes GDPR? Can I see a raise of hands? Nobody raises a hand, of course, because GDPR, the execution was not so wonderful. It was a messy thing, but the intention behind GDPR is wonderful. What Europe said was, the internet is law of the jungle, it's one big mess. With GDPR, we make sure that the citizens of, in this case, it started in Europe, they have more rights over their data. The citizens themselves, they won't do what's necessary to protect their privacy. So we make organizations a bit more responsible for that. The intention was to protect the citizens, and that's a wonderful idea. With GDPR, the data of a citizen is better protected. You have more rights over it. With trusted web, with information timestamps thus being transparent and accountable, it's a logical next step. So the internet was the law of the jungle. Then the next step was GDPR, better rights for your data. And then the next step is trusted web. You can see who was the center of that information and how that information changed over time. It's a logical, it's a successor of GDPR. That's how we see it. And
might that also be the reason that the EU actually granted you this prize? Because obviously they are the GDPR people, the regulators who came up with it. So
there's consensus globally that the internet is broken. And a good question would be, I think we have it in the poll, what is a logical source of a solution to the broken internet, to the where should it come from? Is it should it come from Europe? Should it come from Canada? Canada had their
start thinking about it already.
Start thinking about it already.
The poll question is coming up in a few minutes.
We think Europe has shown with GDPR that they deeply care about a trustworthy internet, a safe internet for its citizens. So I think it's quite logical. The organizer of the Blockchains for Social Good was called Next Generation Internet. That was the instantion that organized the competition. So there wasn't, they had 5 categories where the 175 participants sent in their IDs. Our category ended up to be named quality content, was a category that didn't exist. It was logistics, it was all sorts of things, but there wasn't a thing for internet or quality content. Yeah. They created the category for us, and but it aligns really well with everything the NGI, the Next Generation Internet, stands for, and everything Europe stands for. Europe is really strong in decentralization with all the several languages, with all the several countries. So yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Okay, so, and it really sounds like the logical next step, as the audience can see in the slide as well.
Yeah.
We had the unregulated internet, then the regulators had to step in with regulations to do something, but basically these regulations can't enforce it in a technical way, and in this way we can contribute to it in a more technical way as well.
And and the nice thing is, like GDPR isn't about censorship. It's not one central party who says you can't do this, you can't do that. No, it empowers the consumer, the citizen, to delete their own data or to request that. And Trusted Web is about the same. It empowers the citizens to verify all sources, to verify all revisions. Yeah. So it's really an empowering thing, aligning with how Europe did GDPR.
A question from Ok. Ok, thank you very much. Is the timestamp international interoperable? So can we use it everywhere?
A great question, firstly. Amazing. And the simple answer is yes. So what we do is we use blockchain technology for timestamping, but we're not tied to one blockchain. We're really blockchain agnostic, and what we do is we standardize it as much as possible. So a timestamp can be we started with the EOS network, now we support the Ethereum network. Soon, don't tell anyone, we will support Bitcoin network, and it's between us, right? Yeah. So what you see there is it's chain agnostic and it's really standard agnostic. So what we do is, but we'll come back to that later in this webinar, there is a specific language that search engines and social media use to read information from websites. And the only thing I could say is keep watching. We'll get back to this in a few minutes.
Okay, very good. Then another question, and a question from Ben. Ben, again, thank you very much. This sounds very promising, and obviously you're highly energetic and enthusiastic about it. You should be, but can you also name a downside of timestamping and wordproof? And what are some of the issues you guys are encountering?
So, issues for us in educating people is that they are scared of blockchain, but that was not the intention of the question, I guess.
No, so what is the downside of the solution? Is there a downside of the solution?
The thing is, with timestamping, you can prove that content existed in a specific moment in time. Yeah. With that, you can always prove that, which has downsides as well. Yeah. If you're not handling with integrity, for example, you're stealing content and you timestamp it, we expect policymakers to require timestamps. We expect social media and search engines to reward timestamps. So in a few years from now, if you don't timestamp, you'll be considered a fraud. What are you hiding?
Yeah, but then a question. I'll write an article, and just by a slip of the pen, something wrong went in, and I want to correct it. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, people can say, hey, he corrected his article, so he's a fraud. While I had the best intentions in this case to correct it.
The thing is, you can make that revisions transparent. But the hard thing currently in journalism is that some journalists would agree and others luckily won't, is that there's kind of a taboo on making mistakes. And that's what publishers say to us. Hey, yeah, if I make a little typo, can people see that then? And the answer is they can choose to show it. As you can choose, do I want to show the revisions or do I not want to show the revisions? And then at the same time, the more transparent you are, this when you show the revisions, the higher the reward. That's what we expect. We are all human, we all make mistakes. But part of the broad adoption is that we as citizens, we as consumers, are not too harsh when people make mistakes and be transparent about it. It must be normal to be transparent about your mistakes. Yeah. But that's a big mind shift.
Yeah. Yeah. But you say a publisher can choose to show the revision, yes or no. Yeah. But if they don't show the revision, that could at least gives me the feeling that they're hiding something.
In 3 years, I agree. Yeah. But now it's already a step forward. If they show, hey, we timestamped it, so we take accountability, we can show that we didn't do any revisionism. Yeah. So at least on what you see, nothing has changed. Yeah. But it could very well be that there is an alternate thing behind. That could be, but it's a step forward already.
Yeah. So by timestamping it, they say we're completely standing behind what you can see right now.
They commit to quality and to certain ethics. Yeah.
So a question from Raoul: how will you handle deepfakes with these solutions? Can you handle fraud at the source? Let me put it like that.
So, for example, let's take a case. Yeah? You have John de Mol, the founder of Talpa, who the guy behind The Voice. He has a lot of troubles with imposters or advertising which says, hey, John de Mol bought bitcoins and is really rich now and buy them too. There is technology and it's upcoming and it says, hey, I can recognize who's in this video. And what you can do is you can say, hey, anyone can spread a video with John de Mol or whoever inside. But if you want to upscale it through advertising, for example, you could say it's only allowed to advertise this or only allowed to spread really far on the internet if John de Mol or the persons in the video put their fingerprint, put their timestamps on it. So only then it's possible to size it up. Yeah. So then you have freedom of speech, that's what we have, but not freedom of reach. Yeah. That's a phrase I really like.
And that's grabbing back to the question of ban in the beginning. Then just by example, John de Mol will put his timestamp on it and then thus putting his ID on it, gives the free card to really spread it widely, give it a wide reach on the internet, because you cannot prevent that people will make deepfakes and will publish fake news, etc.
And so, for example, on fake news or misinformation, in many cases it's an opinion of people. Sometimes it's trolling, but sometimes it's an opinion. Yeah. And you can't say it's not allowed on the internet, as that's censorship. That's not how we do it in Europe, and that's globally not how we want to do it. Yeah. But what you can do is perking the reach, making sure that it can't travel that far if there's no one taking real accountability for it.
Okay. People, you had your time to think about a certain question already, and let me put it up because you said you reached towards it already. From which continent should the solution for the broken web actually come? Is that from Europe? Is that from North America? Is that from Asia? Is that from Africa? Or I have no idea. So please give your opinion with this regard. Where should this solution come from? So please click on the answer. And people are already voting, so that is really good. Thank you very much for that one. Most so far Europe. I'm still awaiting a few answers, so please click on the answer so we can see them popping up over here. Most of the answers are in right now. We had a jump all of a sudden, so we might have some slower connection here, but and I'll stop the poll right now. and I'll display the results with you at home. 50% says Europe. That's quite interesting.
That's a compelling pitch.
13% says Asia, and also a large part, more than 35%, has no idea. It is a tough question, though.
It is really, everyone is struggling with this. The big tech is struggling, the governments are struggling.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right. So we talked about the benefits of this for the individual, for the citizen. But obviously, it's more than just a nice solution that once I'm on a site that I can see that the content wasn't altered.
Yeah.
That's what I can actually see.
Yeah.
I can't see if the content is fake at the moment, but I can see the content wasn't altered with. Yeah. That's basically it, right? So me as a citizen, I'm going online, I type in something in Google, and I click on the first hit. And that is my truth. That is how I work. So how can this actually contribute to make sure that my first click is the right one?
Yeah, so the question would be, how would you rank high in a search engine, and why would you do that? Yeah. Content is mainly consumed, the discovery of content, through three parties. It's Google, it's Facebook, it's Instagram. It's the social media and the search engines. You do all content discovery there. Yeah. So you can do what you want with transparency and accountability on content. But if the search engine or social media doesn't take it in account, nothing happens. So what do? We not only present the timestamp to people, but also to search engines in the language they understand, which is schema.org and structured data. Before, we have a short video about that. It's wordproof. It is nice if you could explain it a little bit more, but you made a video out of that. Yeah, so we have the Wordproof Academy. In Wordproof Academy, we make timestamps and search engines, timestamps and publishers, timestamps and e-commerce, explaining the basic of the concept. So let's watch the video, timestamps and search engines, and then we talk further. If you output your content with detailed structured data, you increase your chance of ending up higher and better with the rich cards in the search results. So structured data really matters. Outputting timestamps to structured data. As you've learned, wordproof timestamps can be viewed with a timestamp certificate. Via this certificate, the consumer, your buyer or reader, can verify your content. Nothing new there. But here's the catch. Wordproof outputs your blockchain timestamps as structured data too in schema.org markup. With this standardized timestamp presented via schema.org, both search engines and social media platforms can verify the integrity of your content. Why is that important, and what are the benefits? To answer that, we need to look at current problems in search engines. Although search engines are incredibly smart, even Google has its limitations and issues they haven't been able to solve yet. For example, changing the date. The simplest form of search engine fraud is just changing the publication date of the content. In many cases, this temporarily bumps you higher in the search results. And with a blockchain timestamp offered via structured data, search engines can verify that you didn't tamper with the dates of your content. And then, duplicated content. Think of the following situation. A small site publishes high quality content, and soon after a bigger and better ranking site republishes the same content, getting it indexed earlier than the small site. Google might now wrongly consider the small site a copycat. With blockchain timestamps, original publishers can prove that they were first, which can be verified by search engines. This levels the playing field enormously, and with timestamps in place, being a small publisher or a small shop matters again. So to summarize, a timestamped article is more trustworthy than a non-timestamped article. Never before did a trustless and open source solution exist to prove the existence and integrity of your content. And with your timestamps outputted to schema.org, you're ready for the next generation search engine optimization.
So this actually gives a great overview of how this timestamping works in itself. One question that actually pops into my mind with this regard, you guys are working on timestamping and putting timestamping online. SEO in itself is a totally different game. So how do you deal with that? Do you partner with people in order to work on timestamping in combination with SEO, or how does it work?
The search engine optimization space is really a competitive space. Everybody wants to rank higher. There are all sorts of tricks to rank higher. Mm-hmm. The structured data thing and schema.org, those two are synonymous to each other. They are, that's the way, if you do your schema or structured data right, you automatically rank higher in a way. That's the, when you Google, you see on the right kind of a card with who's the CEO of the company, who's, and this way. That's what you do with structured data. One of the biggest players in search engine optimization is Yoast, Toast with a Y. Mm-hmm. That's how you say the company. And Yoast is really big in the WordPress ecosystem. WordPress runs on 40% of the internet, and 16% of all websites, is 11 million websites, have their structured data implemented via the Yoast SEO tool. Mm-hmm. The investment of Europe was really significant for wordproof, as it came with cash and the credibility, but we onboarded the people from Yoast in the company as investors a few months ago. And together with them, we are working on making timestamps part of structured data, part of schema.org, and that's a really political process. We set up the ID. We got the people involved from all over the world, from the W3, the Internet Consortium, and together we make sure that timestamps, totally standardized, become part of structured data. And having Yoast and the people who worked at the schema implementation for over 11 million websites really makes sense to get the broad adoption. So for example, if you're a Yoast user, you will be educated with the WordProof Academy videos over the coming months on what timestamping is and how it can strengthen your position or make you ready for next generation search engine optimization. Yeah.
Another question from the audience, not from me this time, and from Yancy. Yancy, thank you very much for that one. If content on your website is timestamped, is it then possible for someone else to use that content for its own good? Or is it the trick that you say, no, now I can prove somebody else used my content?
You can still do it, of course,
yeah.
But for the one who timestamps it, it's the timestamp certificate. In a way, it scares copycats. Mm-hmm. And secondly, if there is a kind of a dispute, a copyright dispute, then you can prove not only that you were first, but also how it evolved over time. We have the My WordProof engine, the dashboard. There you can, with one mouse click, you can say, hey, here's the copycat. This is the original article. Generate a legal letter to send it to a hosting company, send it to eBay, for example. So it scares copycats. And secondly, if there is a dispute, you're stronger, but still people can copy.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much, Yancy, for that question. And let's keep them coming, because we still have some time left, and we are slowly but surely going towards the end. We have a few slides left, but if you have a question, please post them so we can pass them on to Sebastian. Obviously, someone has to, in the end, pay for all this content, and one of the parties in the ecosystem are the advertisers. That's something you said as well.
Yeah.
How can this actually benefit advertisers then? Because that is the next step in the ecosystem.
Great question. We have this implemented. So in the SEO, you saw, hey, a big site and a small site. We are testing things like this with DPG Media, with the persgroep currently on the title, in the Buurt it's called. And one of the things, so what the whole ecosystem is about, the policymakers demanding timestamps, consumers requesting them, big tech rewarding them, but the advertisers, or the question could be, who's the most powerful party to achieve change on the internet? just recently we learned that it's not the big tech, it's not the policymakers, but it's the advertiser. 50 or 85% of all the revenue on big tech and on the publishers comes from the biggest advertisers on the internet. 85% is just by the 6 big media agencies. And recently what happened, there was trouble with during the Black Lives Matters movement. People say, hey, Facebook, you should fix this. Please do something. Then they said, no, it's really hard. We can't do that much. Then the biggest advertiser said, okay, stop hate for profit. That was a big campaign where they said, okay, if you won't fix this, we stop advertising. And suddenly it was possible for Facebook to be to take massive action on everything. Not everything is solved, as it's a really hard problem. Facebook, I truly believe that search engines and social media, they want to fix it in a way, but yeah, it hurts their business model as well. So, but then the advertiser said, hey, if you don't fix this, we stop advertising. So what we can imagine, one of the biggest danger for advertisers currently is that their content or their advertising is advertised next to fake information or hurtful information. With timestamps, they can easily, timestamps as an infrastructure, they can see, hey, does someone commit to quality? Does someone, is this content published by credible people with identity tied to it to a certain level? And in that way, you can protect the brand safety of an advertiser.
Yeah. But this is still in early stage, right? Your investigation into this part, how this really contributes to more clicks per million or 1,000, or how they measure it.
What happens, and that's what we said with the DPG Media, that's what the creative director said recently, hey, we can't imagine that we can sell a timestamped article which with a credible journalist writing it for a higher CPM. A higher price per 1,000 views, as it's more credible content. Yeah. And so we're discussing it with advertisers, making it should be as simple in programmatic, for example. When advertising, you could say only on timestamped content or only with certain accountability to it. So there are a few people in the Netherlands who, we're talking to, and this must be a global next step.
Well, in the interest of that one, a question from Raoul. Raoul, thank you very much. Which parties should integrate these timestamp solutions for? First, is it Facebook, is it Google, or should we start at the small parties and the small publisher websites? Or
the small publishers and the big publishers. And for the SEO use case, size doesn't matter, or especially because of the timestamps, anyone, whether you're a small website or a big website, anyone who cares about search engine optimization should implement it as soon as possible, as being early really matters, as timestamps are backwards compatible. Big publishers, DPG is doing it at one of their sites. Before the end of the year, one of the biggest news outlets in the Netherlands will timestamp their full archive and all new articles. And in e-commerce as well. For e-commerce, search engine optimization really matters. So for them as well, all product information, maybe the terms and conditions, it matters to do so.
Yeah. All right. Again, if you have any more questions, please let us know, because we have a few minutes left to ask them to Bas. Bas, question from my side. You guys really started out from a technology view. You want to build the timestamp, but now you're focusing on multiple things, and you kind of mentioned it already. The academy, what is it that you want to reach with the academy? Is it really awareness, or?
Yeah, it's really what we say, hey, timestamping is really powerful, and everyone who learns about timestamping knows how powerful it is. But before you know that we need timestamping, that it's possible, because one of the things we're researching currently is people know that there's a lot of misinformation, but do they know that solutions exist? Mm-hmm. Most people take for granted that the internet is broken. So what we do is we're starting the Trusted Web Foundation, which is an alliance with people from the biggest platforms, biggest publishers, to make sure that we educate everyone on not only the internet is broken, because that's what we know, but that there are open source solutions in the form of timestamping. Then with the Academy, we make it really practical. How can timestamps help in copyright, in search, in all sorts of things? Or what is a timestamp?
Yeah.
So all that information is available at wordproof.com/academy. And for free.
And actually, for free, very interesting. And also, it's an open source solution you're working on, or not?
Yeah, so all the standards are open source. There's a totally open source and free way to use it. Yeah. And we have a plan. We have plans for people who want to timestamp automatically.
Yeah.
So and for verifying the timestamps, it's totally open source. Otherwise, trust in wordproof is needed to verify the timestamp, and then it won't get adopted.
Yeah. Another question from Ben, and Ben will get the reward.
Most questions.
Most questions of the day. So thank you very much for that one, Ben. Thanks to wordproof, the trusted web is a possibility now. But then his question is, what comes after the trusted web? What is the next step after?
Great question. You have all sorts of... If we need a decade to fix the trusted web. It took us 30 years to come where we are today. And to implement the trusted web at full force, it will take some years to do so. All cool things with blockchain and token economics, and there's so much more in the potential of this technology. One of the great things, the hard thing is I mention everything trusted web. So what comes after the trusted web? One of the big things, but that would be part of the trusted web, is the non-fungible tokens. So for content, you will have a timestamp. It's kind of you timestamp it on the blockchain. Now we do it with a transaction. But the next step would be to make it with an NFT, a non-fungible token, so that the content and the ownership of the content is not only on the blockchain, but also transferable. So when I sell my website or when I sell my web shop, I can also really give away the ownership of it. So, but I would still call that the trusted web. So it's really hard to see what is the world in 10, 15 years. Yeah. Because we sometimes tend to forget, and that's also one of the reasons that you started the Academy, that we are still very much in the forefront of our thinking. Yeah. The large majority of the world isn't so far as we are in our thinking already. So So I would love to do a webinar on that one. What is the far future on that one? So if you have a nice guest in mind that should join us here at the table, please let me know. Some other questions that come in. First one is with relation to wordproof as a company in itself. It is a young company, but the last year must have been a roller coaster for you. What is the biggest lessons that you've learned in the last year during this roller coaster? It's a combination. The technology was there from 1991, and finally it's scalable and affordable and things like that. But then you have the perception of the people who should use it and all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. It takes so much time, and that's why we founded the Academy, to explain it in plain English, in plain Dutch, in all languages, and we're translating to Spanish and making sure that everyone can understand. It's really hard work to explain things right, and that's why I love to be here. That's why I admire your work in explaining what the potential of the technology is. But it's only a few people who understand and really respect the user, respect the citizens, respect the policymakers, respect the big tech people. If you say, hey, if you don't get it, I see you somewhere else. I don't want to explain it. It takes so much explanation and patience to explain everything clear. And that's what I learned. I underestimated how much education was needed. Education is the key. It truly is.
I know. And it's doing it for years.
it's a great investment. So also the people watching a webinar like this, those are people who are really credible in their own industries, in their own professionalism, but they're here to learn something new, which is really, it broadens their mindset. For us, we really had to work with publishers. Don't make assumption on, I guess they would like this. I guess they would like that. So really falling in love
Yeah.
with the people in the stakeholders in the ecosystem.
All right, and then for bringing it down to small businesses, a question from Pluscare. I guess it's Jos, one of our very loyal viewers, actually.
Hi, Jos.
To my tiny world reality, where to start timestamping in my little business? Where can I start?
Yeah, it's super easy. Jos probably uses WordPress. And with WordPress, you can literally set it up in 5 minutes. So, and start timestamping the content. There's a free plan.
And the content of your own website, of your own business.
Or whatever it is. And therefore, you say, hey, we commit to transparency, we commit to accountability. And the great thing is, through timestamps, and that's one of the cases on our website as well, whether you're a big website or a small website, normally the big website takes over in the search engines and everything. But with timestamps, you can prove that you were, for example, before the big website. So through timestamps, it really democratizes your copyright protection. It really democratizes your reputation.
So if you have a great idea, and I know that Jos has a great idea, if he then publishes it online and timestamps it, he can always prove that at least at that point in time, he had
that information. Yeah. And through timestamps, being a small player matters again. That was also what was in the search engine video. You have a big website, a small website, and now you can prove who was first. So it's not automatically the big player who wins. Small matters again through timestamps.
All right. Thank you very much for that answer. If you have a last question, please let me know. But I do have a last question for you, and that is, well, search engines and social media will take timestamped content into account, or in other words, they will see the added value of what we're presenting here right now. So. Answer A, in typically Sebastian style, hell yes. Or answer B, no, I don't think so. Let us know what you think. Will search engines and social media take these timestamps content into account, and thus add value to the credibility that someone gives with its timestamping? People are voting very fast, and it's a really one-sided vote, Bas. Almost everybody voted already, so also for the interest of time, I'll stop the voting and I'll publish it right now.
I'm really curious.
But you'll be very happy. Hell yes, 100%.
Wow.
So people believe in your idea, which is great to hear.
Yeah, and it's not just my idea, it's all people from the community, from Joost and from, So, but it truly makes sense for search engines.
All right.
It's a higher quality search result, so.
Okay, so this actually brings us to the end of the webinar already. And there are a few things that I want to say before you leave, so hang on there. Once we end this webinar, there will be a poll, and please fill it in so we can continuously improve our websites. And also I want to point out that obviously in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have the next Leopard Lessons webinar, and that's going to be with Surlink this time, where we're going to talk about connecting the digital blockchain world to the physical world of building components. So how can blockchain actually add to the circular life of building elements in itself? A really, really nice use case that we've been working on with Ledger Leopard for a long time already, together with some other companies in the Surlink initiative. So do tune in 2 weeks' time, because that will really show the added value of blockchain in the circular economy.
Super interesting.
Which is very, well, I would say very interesting.
Yeah, and relevant. I'm a third party, and I agree.
So before I'm going to end up, any last remarks from your side?
Yeah, I always end every presentation with let's build the trusted web together. So maybe we can say that with the people at home. And
they can start at wordproof.io, right?
Wordproof.com.
.com?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's one of the first things we did after
Next phase.
Europe paid us.
So go to wordproof.com to find out more about the WordProof solutions.
And the WordProof Academy, and everything is there. And
All right, and all the free, it's all free content, no strings attached. And
no strings attached. There's a free plan. If you use WordPress, there's a free plan. If you use Shopify before the end of the year, there's a free plan. And yeah, keep track of the biggest media websites, the biggest news outlets in the Netherlands, because one of them will timestamp before the end of the year.
Yeah, I heard something about it, but we can't reveal a name yet. Huh? It's still a little bit too early, but it could be one of the big news providers in the Netherlands. Will be. Very good, very good. So thanks again for watching. Great that you were all here, and thanks again for the participation. Don't forget to fill in the poll, and we'll hope to see you in 2 weeks' time when we have Sirlink as the guest at our table. So hope to see you in 2 weeks, and a bit early maybe, but I hope you will have a good weekend.